Are you looking for a way to advertise your business, offer discounts to your customers, and help veterans at the same time? Then citybyhero.com is the answer. It's your shop local program helping you while providing jobs and funds for veterans. It's simple to sign up, easy for your clients to find your business and your offers, and there are many plans to choose from that fit your budget and your needs. Go to citybyhero.com and sign up today, and we'll make a donation for you to a veterans organization. citybyhero.com.
Knowles on the news. Susan Knowles.
And welcome to the program, everyone. This is Susan Knowles. I'm the host of Stand for Truth Radio with Susan Knowles, and you can follow me there on Spreaker.com or on your Spreaker phone app. And also, we are on iTunes. Just look for Stand for Truth Radio with Susan Knowles. And this is a segment I do called Knowles on the News, and it is your news so that you can be up to date. There is a lot to cover today, a lot of news, as there always is, it seems. So let's get started. As you know, earlier this week, we had the primaries in Michigan, Mississippi, Idaho, and Hawaii. And as expected, Donald Trump won Michigan, and he also won Mississippi and Hawaii. I think Hawaii was kind of up in the air. Nobody knew for sure. But Donald Trump got Hawaii, and Cruz got Idaho. And he also picked up an endorsement today by Carly Fiorina. I don't know that anybody will care about that endorsement. To be quite honest, it's not like a major endorser, although I think Carly has a lot of principles that are similar to Ted Cruz's, so it's a good endorsement. But then there's an endorsement from the Bushes, which I think if I were Ted, I probably would have tried to decline that one. But I know that he did work for George Bush early on in his career, so I'm sure the Bushes feel like they should, get behind him. So hopefully it won't hurt him too much. Hopefully it won't act as it did when Romney went out there and tried to bash Trump. I mean, if that wasn't a gift for the Trump supporters, I don't know what is. You should be writing Romney and thanking him for that profusely. And hopefully Romney won't come out in favor of anybody too much and will just kind of go away. I heard recently, too, and I don't know if this is true, but that the RNC is trying to do a super PAC or something with Paul Ryan to get him in the race. It's like, oh, my gosh. Didn't you learn from last week or whenever it was with Romney? Now you're going to try to bring Ryan in? I mean, I don't even like him in the Congress. I certainly wouldn't want him as my president. I want him to go away. I want him to be unseated in his congressional seat, and I want him to go and do whatever it was he was doing before he came into public office. He's been such a disappointment, as I think most of us knew he would be, though he may be a bit better than Boehner, and that's I hesitate to say that because I'm not really sure that he is, but he needs to just say to the RNC if it's true, no, thank you, I'll just wait out my time here. But, maybe because his seat is up for re-election, I believe, maybe he's thinking, maybe I should, try to get a deal going here. And speaking of deals going, I think the RNC and their some type of talk about maybe there being a brokered deal, I think is absolutely ridiculous, and I think it's something that the American people should really be against. I mean, whether you like Trump, whether you like Cruz, Kasich, I don't know who does, but somebody does, and Rubio, you really need to be thinking, is this what the American public wants? I think whoever it is, we should allow that person to go forward. If that's the person that the American public wants, then let's let that happen. But I think, what's happening is that we're starting to get down the road here, and the votes are so split, it might just come down to split votes again, and Donald Trump doesn't get 1,237 that he needs. It's a little bit early to think that way, but it's a possibility. And we have all these people continuing to stay in, like Kasich and Rubio, who need to get out. They're feeding their egos. I know Kasich did, I think, second in Michigan. So he's feeling feeling really good about himself, I think, today. And he wants to go on to Ohio so I can win Ohio. Great. And after you win Ohio, then what? I don't really see him winning anything else. And I don't see Marco, who wants to stay in to, quote unquote, win in Florida. I don't see that really happening either. I mean, Marco, he won Puerto Rico, and I think some other state, I can't remember. And now it's time to just get out and let the votes go where they may with these two candidates. Really. I mean, just let's move this along. We have the Democrats who obviously don't seem to have a problem in moving things along for themselves. They had Bernie Sanders winning in Michigan. and Hillary just sort of ignoring the fact that Bernie is even alive. So, I mean, they're moving it on and on down the road. And again, maybe Bernie should just go ahead and drop out, because what's the likelihood of him winning the nomination? I think it's probably an impossibility unless the Democrats pick a candidate, and the Democrats certainly aren't going to pick him. I think the Democrats a long time ago, if they didn't like Hillary, they should have tried harder to get Elizabeth Warren. And I know there was some talk about Elizabeth Warren. Oh, well, not many people, they don't really know her, and she's not a big name. That many people knew Bernie Sanders? I don't know. I mean, and very much so the Elizabeth Warren groupies really wanted her to be the presidential candidate. I mean, they were ready to go. They had the website up. They had everything else going. I'm wondering if there was a phone call one night to her that said, hi, Elizabeth, it's Hillary, and I just wanted to find out how you're feeling and how you're doing, because you're looking really good right now. And how, when you get into a race and a presidential race or something like that, it really takes a toll on you. You know what I'm saying? So you may want to reconsider going in, because it may not be too healthy for you. And those that know the Clinton history, I think, get my sarcasm here. But for whatever reason, she didn't want to do it. And it was really strange, because as you and I both know, up until she said, I don't want to run, you were hearing about her in the news like every other day. And then all of a sudden, she has disappeared. I mean, Elizabeth who? And the media couldn't get enough of her. No one on the Democrat side could get enough of her. And yet, because Hillary's running and she doesn't want any competition or anybody saying, is it too late to get her in? She's now just disappeared. And it's just between Sanders and Hillary. God, who would ever have thought we would see the day when that happened? And yet, here it is. Here it is. And again, it's time to get all the unnecessary people out in the RNC side, the GOP candidates. Get out. Get out Rubio. Get out Kasich. Let's go. Move it. Gone. Right? It's so funny. The RNC, they're not going to give up either. They really, I think deep down, they really want that brokered deal, and they're going to try to really make that happen, because I received something that it looks like a ballot, and it says in there, I want you to tell us who it is that you want to see as a presidential candidate. And I'm thinking to myself, well, we're kind of doing that right now, because people are out there voting. They're voting in the primaries. It's how we choose a presidential candidate. Or have you forgotten? I mean, why do you need to know what my vote is going to be and who I want for a presidential candidate? Why are you spending the money on the envelope, the printing fees and everything else to print the ballot up to get me to tell you who I want to see as the president, the presidential candidate, or at that point the nominee? I don't get it. I'm hoping that not everyone got this, that maybe it was just California and those people who haven't yet voted and they want to kind of see down the road, what the prospects are. I don't know. But they, of course, asked for a donation. And it said in there, okay, well, if you can't give a donation, we need $15 for the processing fee of this ballot. So in other words, I want your opinion. I need your help to make some decisions here on what we're going to do as a party. And I really want to know what you're thinking and how you may vote. And oh, by the way, for your opinion, I'm going to charge you $15. Oh my gosh. And then the GOP wonders, why don't people like us? Why are we in the position that we're in? Well, gosh, I don't know. Because you tick off everybody? Because you don't understand the American public? Because you don't listen to the American public? And you're so out of touch? I'm throwing some things out there for you to think about. Maybe one of those will stick and resonate with you. I'm hoping. At this point, I doubt it, but I'm really hoping. I'm hoping somehow that whoever the next presidential nominee is, that they somehow correct the GOP. Maybe get cabinet members and vice president, somebody to look into that and figure out how to make the process that they do work. And not work better, just work. Because I think most people have had enough. Most people have had enough of where they see the RNC going and under the guidance of the RNC, where the GOP is going. I think people are just fed up and basically are just saying, enough is enough. We need some real leadership. We need a party that actually does what they say they're going to do. I don't know about you, but it's been so long since I've heard the GOP make a promise and then follow through with it. I haven't seen that this entire, 8 years. It's just been about, what do you want, Democrats? Okay, you got it. We might as well have one party if this is going to continue. And I do think if it comes down to a brokered deal, let's say everybody does want Trump as the presidential nominee. If it comes down to it and the RNC won't allow him to be the nominee, and they say, well, we're just going to pick whomever we want. Well, they're not going to pick Cruz. They're going to pick Kasich. So think about that. Do you want Kasich as your president? It's going to be a difficult thing, I know, for some people who are pro one way or the other, pro Cruz, pro Trump, and not willing to budge. Some people are saying, I'm not going to vote for Trump no matter what. Well, and some people say, well, that's just going to give you Hillary Clinton. And I think it would, and I think it would also just give us, it'll split us up. Because I do think that Trump will probably go independent. I don't know that Cruz would ever do something like that, but I think Donald Trump would if that occurred. And regardless of how you feel about the candidate, if the American public speaks, and this is who they want, then it needs to go forward and not have the RNC selecting the candidate for the American people. I mean, isn't that exactly what the GOP does? They don't listen. They just do whatever they want to do. They're not listening to the American public. They make up their own minds. Well, why have this process if that's what you're going to do? You know why? Because this is still America. It's called freedom. And so we don't need you telling us what we should or shouldn't do. So I think that whole thing has got to be rectified and rectified pretty fast. And I think part of the way that how we do that is you get the remaining people out. Just get out. If the RNC wants to make a decision, what about saying, hey, Rubio, hey, Kasich, you can't possibly win, get out. And, of course, they're not going to do that because there's always that broker deal coming down at the very end that they can work. And Kasich could end up as your presidential nominee. Just think about that tonight when you're trying to sleep. If you think it's scary outside now, think about Kasich being your president. No, thank you. I tell you, the news, sometimes it's got to get better, right? It's got to get better. On to other topics. I don't know if you heard, but there are some more problems in Baltimore, and I know that's going to come as a shock to you. after we had the riots in Baltimore, Black Lives Matter. Let's see, what else did we have? We had the mayor coming out and giving space to destroy. We had the state prosecutor coming out and saying, this one's for you, and all the rioters out there, this one is for you. So now we have another problem. But why aren't we hearing anything about this? Well, I can tell you why. Because this problem concerns a black police officer, not a white one. So we can't come out and oppose this because this guy is black. This black police officer is being accused of smacking a student, a 10th grader, several times. There's a video circulating, and you have to watch the video. I mean, this kid gets slapped like 3 times. And I guess this kid was under investigation for, I don't know if it was a break-in in the school or something. And his friend was also being investigated. And they're standing there having the one kid who's being investigated is filming the officer and the other kid. And I'm sure these 2 kids aren't saints in any way. I mean, that's the picture that's being painted. But you have to look at it and say, what right does that give a police officer to act in that way? And I guess you could hear on the video, one police officer says to the other one, you need to smack him because he's got too much mouth. Probably does. Doesn't give the police officer, of course, the right to smack or slap or anything else an unarmed kid who is not doing anything where the cop has to defend himself. If you watch the video, you'll see clearly that, I don't see that there's any excuse. And I know these 2 cops supposedly have been placed on administrative leave. Again, where are the rioters? Where are the looters? Where are the people coming out in defense? And the only thing I can think of, this is a black cop, not a white cop. I don't know if the kid is black, white, Hispanic, or Asian. I'm not sure. He looks in the video, and the video is kind of grainy, but he looks like he may be light-skinned, and that could be either one of the 4 I just mentioned. So I have no idea. But the DOJ just came in there following all the rioting because the mayor and the city council and everybody else invited them in. Take a look around, make sure everything's okay. Take over our police force. Here are the keys to the city. Whatever you want, DOJ. We're here to please you. Apparently, the DOJ needs to go back because there seems to be some issues still going on. Now, who knows? I don't know how you justify that type of thing happening from what I saw in the video, but I didn't see anything before, anything after. I'll give the benefit of the doubt until the evidence is all heard, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. So I'm waiting for Black Lives Matter to come out and talk about this police officer or talk about, the kid in the film. Somebody needs to come out and talk about it, right? We talked about it all the other time, so why not now? And the 2 police officers have been put on administrative leave, and we'll see what happens about that. Now, looking at other news, have you heard about all of the terrorist attacks in Israel this week? It's amazing. As we all know, or I'm not watching it, but Joe Biden, our vice president, is in Israel this week. And I may have been on the very day that he got there. There were 3 terrorist attacks in one day. I think since then there's been 4. One happened like the next day. I was watching a gentleman's Periscope from over in Israel, and he was talking about all the terrorist attacks. I mean, it was amazing. One was 2 police officers over there in Israel were shot. I don't know what their condition is. He talked about another one that was occurring. And then the one I think that was really bizarre, and I don't know if our news really talked about the details of it, but there was a Muslim Palestinian, supposedly, who got a knife and was running around in traffic. And, a lot of people have their car windows down. I think especially in the Middle East, not so much here, but it's a good reason now not to have your window down, I suppose. But he was running around and would run up to cars and just literally start stabbing these people. And I believe he injured 12 people. And I believe that was the American student that was killed, was part of that attack. And he was, I believe, shot and killed the assailant with the knife. But my gosh, who would suspect? I know a pregnant woman, too, is in the hospital from getting stabbed. Crazy, crazy stuff going on. And I think a lot of it was caused by, they're saying, misinformation. These people thought something was going to be changed, some rule over there. They wouldn't be allowed to pray at a certain time or what. I don't know. It was just misinformation and anger. And everything. I know Israel has a lot of attacks, and Palestinians and Israelis attack each other all the time, it seems. But it seems like it's getting worse. And this one just seemed absolutely based on false information, just crazy. So, and again, the next day there was another one that happened. And Israel, they were saying that there's not a lot of attacks in Israel, but it's a fact that every attack is reported. And it sure does seem like there are a lot of attacks there. But I think more of their information gets reported than what we have here. We would probably be shocked if we knew everything about what was going on here. But of course we're not told all the details, or we're just told workplace violence, not a big deal. They happen to get up on the wrong side of the bed, so. Unbelievable. And in other news in the Middle East, Iran. And I don't recall really hearing too much about this, but Iran fired 2 missiles marked with the words in Hebrew, Israel must be wiped out. So these are the people that we sat down at the bargaining table with and did the Iran nuclear deal. These are great people, right? And it's not. And again, I want to make sure you know this, because I've had a lady on my show several times now who's from Iran. She escaped from Iran a long time ago and came here, and she makes the point. It's not the Iranian people, it's the Iranian government. And she's absolutely right. Because the more I read about it, learn about it, the people aren't necessarily in lockstep with the government. But the government is going to do what it wants to do, and obviously the government's crazy. Okay? So they fire these 2 missiles with that phrase on it, and it's a show of strength by the Islamic Republic. And as the U.S. Vice President gets there. So, great. And they're saying that the new missile firings are the latest in a series of tests in recent days. And they appear aimed at demonstrating that Iran will push ahead with its ballistic program. Because, why? Because they had to scale back on their nuclear program, because we told them they couldn't do that, right? So, it's like, okay, we'll put the nukes aside. As a matter of fact, we won't do anything about the nukes. We'll get somebody else to do it. We'll pay them. Because that's what they're doing. They're paying Russia. They're paying somebody to create the nukes. I mean, that's only the Obama administration would believe that they weren't going to go ahead with it. So we're going to do this ballistic program. And they've fired rockets and missiles despite the United States' objections since the deal, as well as shown underground missile bases on state television. Oh, what a shocker. You mean they're not afraid of the United States? Oh, really? And I just love this. Biden speaking next to Netanyahu at a little conference basically didn't acknowledge the missile launch directly, but he issued a strong warning to the big bad Iranian government. And here's what he said. A nuclear-armed Iran is an absolutely unacceptable threat to Israel, to the region, and the United States. And I want to reiterate, which I know people still doubt here, if in fact they break the deal, we will act, he said. Oh, you mean like in Hollywood act, or actually doing something. And what will that be? Let's see. You're going to act and allow Iran, perhaps, to choose what their consequences? Come on. They don't care what you say. They really don't. They got the great end of the deal with the nuclear arms deal. And they don't really care what you have to say, Joe. I hate to break it to you. They don't care. So they're going to go ahead and do whatever. And you can keep saying, we're going to act. And they'll keep saying, okay, well, we're firing another missile in about 5 minutes. Hope you can see there. Hope you can get there. Unbelievable. And, you have to wonder if any of this was helped along by the fact that Obama came out this week and said, I've been thinking. Of course, he was probably thinking when he was out on the golf course, but, I've been thinking. And I think that the only way to have Israel be secure and safe is to have a two-state solution. And I'm sure Iran's sitting there going, hey, that sounds good to me. Let's go fire a couple more missiles. But Obama said over time, the only way that Israel is going to be truly secure and the only way the Palestinians are going to be able to meet the aspirations of their people is if they are two states living side by side in peace and security. See, I think he's practicing. I think he's practicing for the day that he leaves office and he hightails it right over to the UN. Doesn't that sound like somebody, a director at the UN? Oh my gosh, I think the only way we're going to be... it really sounds that way to me. I would be shocked if he doesn't go over there to be director, if he somehow he has to be involved with the UN. Because all he can do is come up with whatever policy is going to suck for whatever country he's talking about. Anytime he talks about the United States, the policy sucks. If it's a policy he came up with, it'll suck for the United States. If it's a policy he comes up with for Iran and Palestine, it'll suck for Israel. I mean, that's just who he is. And the UN is really really professionals, really, at doing things that suck for other countries. Because the UN is useless. I have still to this day have no idea why we have the UN other than just political BS. I wish the next president would come in and say, you know what, from now on, we're not even going to deal with the UN. I don't care what they say. We're not going to go to any of their meetings. We're not going to give them any money. We're not going to give them their time of day. The UN, as far as the United States is concerned, it's over. I know I'm dreaming, but let me have my dream, will you? Because I just think in anything that they've ever put their hands on, it's been the worst possible thing. So, I don't know. I think, he did this, they said, because of escalating violence in Israel. And that's why they said that. Oh, yeah, that's really going to help. Thanks for helping us over here. But they said the violence that they had over there in Israel was initially sparked by Palestinian fears that the Israeli government was violating an agreement that forbids Jewish prayer at the mosque in occupied East Jerusalem. Okay. And it says now, listen to this. Analysts are warning that the conflict could spiral into a third intifada, a broad uprising against the Israeli occupation, which is now in its 48th year. Well, again, I'm sorry, and I know people may disagree, but if Obama would just keep his mouth closed, probably Israel would be better off. That's my guess. And I don't know why Biden is there. I really don't know. But apparently there are no golf courses in Israel, so don't expect to see Obama over there. In other news, on Fox Business Network, there was an interview. I don't know, I'm sure you remember what happened in Paris, but I don't know if you remember the lead singer of the Eagles of Death Metal when they had that terrorist attack over there, and I think 89 people or something were killed at the concert. And at the time, the Eagles of Death metal band was playing there. And apparently now the lead singer is coming out and saying that he feels that the security guards were all in on that attack. And he says, when I first got to the venue and walked in, I walked past the dude who was supposed to be the security guard for the backstage. He didn't even look at me. And he went on to say, I immediately went to the promoter and said, who's that guy? I want to put another dude on. And he goes, well, some of the other guards aren't here yet. And eventually I found out that 6 or so wouldn't show up at all. Now that's interesting. Really is interesting. Is that because they knew that an attack was imminent and they didn't want to be there? Or was it they were part of the terror attack or something like that? I mean, and they knew about it and they supported it and that's why they didn't show up. I don't know. The 6 that didn't show up, it's kind of strange. To me, that just says that somebody knew that something was going to go down or they thought it was going to. But I think that is it's very interesting, and in fact he says it seems rather obvious they had a reason not to show up. Yeah, that'd be my guess. And who knows what that was, and probably we will never find out what that is. They'll probably never find those people that were supposed to show up and didn't show up. It would be my guess. So we'll see if we hear anything more about that as time goes on. And we all know that Nancy Reagan passed away this past week. Finally, she is reunited with President Ronald Reagan, which is a great thing. They both loved each other so much. I had a guest on recently, Craig Shirley, who talked about the Reagans. And if you didn't hear that, you can go to the Spreaker.com with Stand for Truth Radio with Susan Knowles and look for Craig Shirley. It was on February 8th show. He talks all about the Reagans, about what happened after Reagan passed away as well, and after everything after his retirement, kind of like what life was like for them. And it's interesting that President Obama, interesting, I say, not really, because we all knew that he wasn't going to go to her funeral. However, in fairness to him, in the past, I guess presidents don't typically go. It's usually the first ladies that go. And thank goodness Michelle Obama is going to attend the funeral instead, because the president has to go to the South by Southwest Interactive Festival in Texas. And I'm sure most Texans can't wait for him to get there. And I do know this is probably in a very liberal part of Texas would be my guess, but I don't know. He doesn't, where does he go? What does he do when important people are in need, or important people pass away, or notable people, whatever, instead of important? When does he ever show up? And my question is, do you think Nancy Reagan would have wanted him at her funeral? Personally, my answer probably to that would be no, probably not. I don't even know that she would want Michelle Obama there. But also, guess who else is going? Hillary Clinton is going. Woohoo! Now, that's one person that I'm almost positive that she would not want at her funeral. And again, if you go back and listen to my show with Craig Shirley, you'll understand what I'm talking about. When Ronald Reagan died, apparently the Clintons were just so obnoxious because they wanted to be out in the limelight, and she basically wouldn't let it happen. And so I'm sure she's sitting there going, "Oh, great! I'm glad Hillary's coming. Woohoo! I was hoping she would come." And I'm sure for Hillary, this is just another campaign stop. Why not? You know, this is probably more people that she's going to have at a rally than she's had normally. So why not just show up and talk about stuff there? Hopefully she won't politicize anything, but that's what President Obama does when he does show up to places. So why not? And speaking of Hillary, just this past week, the RNC filed a lawsuit against her, seeking State Department records and emails of associates of Hillary Clinton from her early 2013 to late 2015 emails. Okay, and the suit was filed in federal court in Washington, D.C. And the statement that came out, or what is in the complaint of the RNC, says Clinton's actions while Secretary of State and the actions of those senior officials with whom she worked most closely and supervised are manifestly relevant to whether she is fit to lead this country. Now, I don't, to me, this seems more like a political move, honestly. It doesn't seem, I mean, of course it has merit, don't get me wrong, but why didn't anybody ask for this before? Why aren't people in Congress asking for this? How come the people conducting the hearing didn't ask for this information? Why now are we filing a lawsuit? And I don't know. I've been debating this all day long because I haven't seen the complaint. I don't know what's been alleged or anything else, but I'm wondering how exactly the RNC has standing for something that may or may not occur in the future. They're saying whether or not she's fit to lead the country. Well, she doesn't have the presidential nominee yet. Is their lawsuit too early? And let's say it's not and it meets that hurdle. Where's their standing? Why do they have a right to bring it? Now, do they have a right to bring it as citizens of the United States in general? I don't know. I don't know what a court is going to rule on that. But again, to me, it kind of smacks more of a political move. And again, maybe the RNC is worried about who's going to get the GOP presidential nomination, and this is some other step that they're trying to take to get Hillary out. I have no idea. Again, nothing in this election is typical, nothing that we've seen before, and it can just get as bizarre as it can get, I suppose. So hopefully we hear a little bit about that and find out if that's going to stand or not. Now, in other news, supposedly the U.S. Special Forces captured the head of the Islamic State group's unit trying to develop chemical weapons in a raid last month in northern Iraq. Then this came from two senior Iraqi intelligence officials, but really no one in the Obama administration is talking about it and confirming it. They did say that they captured an Islamic State leader but had refused to identify him, saying only that he had been held for 2 or 3 weeks and was being questioned. So does that mean you let him go, or do you still have him? Send him over to Guantanamo Bay, right? But and again, this is a man, supposedly, this is how the Iraqi officials identified the man, as the person who worked for Saddam Hussein's military industrialization authority, where he specialized in chemical and biological weapons. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is, I thought everybody said there weren't WMDs. So what did this guy do? Just make fake chemical and biological weapons? And I wish people could make up their minds about whether there were or weren't WMDs, because it depends on who you talk to, what time of day it is, whether or not there were actually WMDs. So, again, the United States is being secretive when they want to be and not when they don't want to be. So, who knows if we're going to get the straight scoop on any of this stuff. Now, guess who else is filing a lawsuit? This one, it seems to me like another sort of political move out of desperation on the part of Bernie Sanders. But he's suing the Ohio top elections official in federal court, arguing that the Ohio election official arbitrarily discriminated against young Black and Latino voters by not allowing 17-year-olds who will be 18 by the general election to vote in Ohio's primary next week. Really? So Bernie, I got to ask this question. If you're so concerned, why was this only about Black and Latino voters, not about white and Asian? I mean, shouldn't this be about all 17-year-olds, not just of a particular race? What's up with that, Bern? I'm feeling the burn, but I don't understand. And I'm feeling the burn, not in a good way, if you understand what I'm talking about, but in a Bernie Sanders type of way. At least, and in all fairness to Bernie here, at least 20 states allow 17-year-olds to participate in presidential primaries or caucuses if they will be 18 on Election Day in November. Now, for me, I don't even know why that's true. Why would you do that? Because if they have to be 18 to vote, why should they be allowed to vote in the primary in those 20 states if they're only 17? I don't think you should be. Sorry, I just don't think you should be. I think if voting is at age 18, it should be, anything concerning voting should be at age 18. But again, it troubles me that Bernie would only care about 17-year-old Blacks and Latinos. Is that because you think Asians and white people only vote for Republicans, and so you don't care about them? Or what is it, Bernie? I think, for me, this looks very, it looks like racial discrimination to me, but I know that it can't possibly be. So anyway, we will see. The elections official said that the law is very clear in Ohio, and there's no discrimination. That just the law is the law. And I would think in Ohio that they, unlike Bernie, it's 17-year-old. It's the age they're concerned about, and not whether they're Black or Latino in 17. Just saying, Bernie, try to get it together. Now, in other news, this is so exciting. It's about rapper 50 Cent. He's expected in a Connecticut courtroom to explain some photos. Now, I don't know if you recall, but he is involved in a bankruptcy. He's filed bankruptcy because, I don't know, maybe like Kanye West hasn't filed bankruptcy, but he's been asking for a lot of money. Like, what is it, $53 million in debt he is supposedly. So he's asking Obama and anybody else that he can get money from for a handout. Again, why not ask Kim Kardashian for a loan? I mean, you're sleeping with her. You think that you could secure a loan, but apparently not. But anyway, back to 50 Cent. In the photos, it seems like he surrounded himself with piles of cash. And the bankruptcy court's sitting there going, wait a minute now. If you have all that kind of money, how come you're asking to file for bankruptcy? And 50 Cent's like, whoa, hold on here. That the stacks of cash aren't real, and I'm not hiding any assets from you. Now, I should tell you that 50 Cent's real name is Curtis Jackson III, and he filed last year. He filed for bankruptcy right after a New York City jury ordered him to pay $7 million to a woman who said he posted her sex tape online. Wow. So, So, you just recently heard of the other one. Well, the case was decided just the other day. It was Aaron, the one who, I think she worked for ESPN, and she was changing clothes in a hotel, and some guy was taking photos and maybe video, and then he put that online, and they awarded $55 million to her. But what happened with her is, in her case, they didn't just go after the person; they went after the hotel and everybody else. So, and quite different situation, I'm sure. But really, it's funny. You don't hear much about Curtis Jackson and his sex tape. I didn't even know that that's what happened and why he had to file bankruptcy, to be honest with you. So we'll see if 50 Cent can go in there, and explain this all away. I tell you what he should do is next time when you're taking photos for publicity, instead of having cash around you, just get some quarters, some dimes, nickels, pennies, things like that. Toss them around, and then it won't look so bad for you. Now, in other news, I was reading this morning that Obama has come up with another great scheme. And I'm sure it wasn't Obama. I'm sure he had a ton of help, as he always does, and people saying, let's see, what can we do in order to make sure that the Republicans never win office ever again? Well, apparently, and I don't know about you, but I didn't hear about this, and it concerns me, and it concerns you, because it's your taxpayer dollars. Of course, under Obama and people like Hillary and Bernie, that money's not really yours anyway, right? It belongs to everybody else. And you only get half of it, if that. And then you have to pay taxes on all of it, but you get half of it. Something like that. Some crazy thing like that. But anyways, I think starting last September, Obama decided that he is going to provide a $10 million grant, not a small amount of money, a $10 million grant to sign up legal immigrants to become citizens. And, well, it's really weird, but let's see. Last September this started, and then we have an election in November. I wonder if there's any connection. It's amazing. I mean, it really is amazing what the Democrats will do. And him, he's probably, in his last final days, he's trying to find everything he can do to help the Democrat Party win. Everything. Anything and everything. And so this is just one more scheme. And it's really sad because a lot of the other legal immigrants who are standing in line because, you know, they've already paid their fees and they're just waiting. And those fees, I'll tell you, those fees are $680 filing fee. That's a lot of money. So here these people have already paid their fees. And then Obama's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to come out with a new scheme, and I'm just going to make this so easy. I'm going to take $10 million of the taxpayer money, and I'm going to go and pay the fees for any new people who want to become citizens. And I'm even going to allow them to practice online, practice the tests, and everything else. I mean, aren't I wonderful? And somebody pointed out, oh, wait a minute now. Hold on here. You're just doing this to get new voters for the Democrat Party. Oh, no. This is bipartisan. And we're including everyone. This isn't about just one party. It's both parties. Right. I can believe that. Right. Unbelievable. And Dennis Michael Lynch from Unfiltered on Newsmax said he thinks it's an attempt to stop Donald Trump. No, I think it's much broader. I think it's basically an attempt to keep the Republicans from winning a party or a nomination for their party forever. You know, they will never even get a position anywhere because I think the way Obama and people like Obama see it is that let's just have a Democrat Party. Well, we already have that. The Republicans have already gone over to that side anyway. I mean, the GOP doesn't even exist. It exists in name only, but what we see happening certainly, to me, isn't the GOP that I remember, especially not the GOP under Ronald Reagan. We are so far from that. Ronald Reagan would just be rolling his eyes at what he sees. So I think that in his final days, it's just another scheme, another progressive left scheme, bring down the Republicans, be one party, and go forward. It's ridiculous. And again, no one told us, did they? Did you hear back in September that they were using your money to do this? Yeah, I didn't think so. Neither did I. Now, if you're looking to buy some great shoes from Kanye West, Yeezy, I guess that's how you pronounce them, the new Yeezy Boost, there's going to be a new release on that. You'll want to get your shoes, get your sneakers, because Kanye West needs the money. And it's so funny. TMZ is already reporting that the sneakerheads are camped out in front of Shoe Palace in hopes to get the latest Adidas Yeezy Boosts, which are rumored to be released next week. How much are those things? What, $400, $300? I mean, it's amazing how much these quote-unquote sneakers cost people. I mean, these are the same people. They have no money for food. They can't buy, a shirt to go for a job interview, but they can buy the Yeezy Boost sneakers. And I think I'm right. I think it's Kanye West. And again, he's $53 million in the hole, supposedly. So he's going to need all the money he can get. And it's so weird. I guess the Shoe Palace, put up signs like, hey, we don't really know when the release is going to be. So I don't think you should really be sitting around here waiting for some shoes that may not come for quite some time. But Shoe Palace, these are Yeezys. We've got to wait. You don't understand. And these people, you should see this picture. I don't know exactly where this Shoe Palace is. I guess it's Los Angeles. So thankfully for them, it's a little bit warmer. But I hate to tell these people, we just got through the rain. I don't know if they were sitting there, through the rain. But we just got word that it's going to be more rain coming. Like Friday and Monday, Tuesday, that type of thing. So I guess, you better hope those Yeezys come out before, tomorrow or the next day so that you won't have to sit there in the pouring rain. But I tell you, some people, they thought about that already. And so they have RVs. Again, I don't know where you get these RVs if you can't afford to buy food or anything else. Maybe these are the people that are, and they're not, rich people with a ton of money aren't going to sit out there in an RV or rain. So I don't know who these people are. I really don't know. People who have nothing better to do than sit in an RV to buy really expensive shoes. That's all I know for sure. But hopefully they won't be disappointed. They'll get their Yeezys and they'll just live happily ever after. And in other news, this is on the East Coast, Atlantic City, once a popular East Coast resort and gambling mecca, according to the report, is running out of cash very rapidly and could default on its debt as soon as April if the New Jersey legislature fails to agree on a rescue plan. Wow. And here I thought that the economy was turning around, jobs were coming back. Obama said this is just a great, great time. No problem. So I don't understand. Who's lying here? This report or Obama? I'll let you decide. The city is facing a $102 million budget deficit for its 2016 fiscal year ending in June, as it owes $190 million to casinos that successfully challenged their property taxes. Wow. So there you go. If you have New Jersey that's having issues like that, who else? What other city? What other states are having issues that we don't know about? I think Atlantic City is only one city. There's got to be tons of others. I know that, again, Obama's everything's fine, everything's great. Those darn Bushes, if they just leave things alone, everything would have been fine. But you know what? They don't need to worry. We'll bail them out no matter what. You know the government is going to come in and they're going to bail them out. Here's your money. Here's what you got to do to get it. And don't tell anybody how bad it is because we are telling them that everything's just fine. I can see that being part of the deal. You just don't tell them exactly what we did. This will just be between us. It's just between you and me. We're just friends here. We're all friends here. and we'll just move forward, and you can just go back out there and pretend that everything's okay. Should be no problem. Now, if it were, let's see, if Bernie Sanders was the president, what would he do? What would Bernie do? Bernie would say, anything good, half of it's mine. As for debt, no, not so much. You're on your own, buddy. Either that, or you can sell your whole business to the government. You don't need a business. You don't need land. You should have paid those property taxes because, if you didn't own that property in the first place, you wouldn't have had property taxes to owe, and, on and on and on. And next time you can believe that they're probably going to finagle some way that they can get those property taxes from those people legitimately, quote unquote. And they're balancing their budget just like the government, the United States government, balances theirs. That's the example that people have to follow. So it's kind of hard to look at Atlantic City and say what they're doing wrong when the federal government can't get their act right. And finally, seems like New Jersey is the hotbed of things, but a federal judge in Brooklyn convicted Air Force veteran from New Jersey of attempting to join the Islamic State terror group last year. He had traveled to Turkey to try to cross into Syria, and an unsent letter was found to his wife on his laptop that said he wanted to be a holy warrior. So, hard to believe that that somebody, in the Air Force, an Air Force vet, would have done something like that. But how do you explain something like that to your family, to your country? What would make you be so ridiculously stupid to do something like that? Perhaps Obama can, after he gets out of prison, or maybe he can, before he is sent to prison for forever, maybe Obama can walk in the Rose Garden with him or something, arm in arm, and tell him that, he understands. I don't know. I mean, he understood about Bergdahl and all that, so why not understand what this guy's going through, right? I mean, a good cause, wasn't it? Going over to the Islamic State. Of course, I'm being very sarcastic, but it just is very concerning that that somebody would do that. And how many more people are we going to see doing that? Hopefully, that's leveling off at some point, and we're not seeing people go over there to sign up. My gosh, with the Islamic State. I know a little while back the Islamic State was having problems getting people, and they were having to cut their pay. So perhaps that dissuaded a bunch of people from going over there. At least I hope so. I think got a lot of misguided people who were doing that, and hopefully we've kind of leveled that off. But anyway, one never knows what you're going to find anymore, and what you're going to see in the news, and what people are actually going to do. It's been a crazy couple of months. We're into March now. Hopefully the April comes along. Maybe things will smooth out. You think? I think we're all in for a kind of a bumpy ride this year. I think we're going to see so many different changes and so many things happening that people are just going to be shaking their heads a lot, rolling their eyes a lot, attacking each other a lot verbally, and we're just going to have to say, you know what? I don't want to be a part of that. I'm just going to mind my own business. You mind your own. Let's just try to get along, if that's possible. I really hope that it is, because I've seen some real ugliness, and it would be nice if people would just allow people to have opinions and know that because they allow others to have opinions, they have opinions themselves, and that they are freely allowed to give. So in any event, I'm so glad that you were here today. I hope you will come back next week when we have another edition of Knowles on the News. There's always something happening. It seems like more and more each day. I've got tons of things to look at and read through before I present them to you. And I'm always so glad to be able to do that for you, because a lot of times people just don't have time to sit and watch the news or go through and read through everything themselves. So I'm glad, to be able to bring you the news as it happens sometimes, and on weekly basis bring you the news. So until next time, please take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And I'll see you again here next week with more Knowles on the News. Take care.